this is going to be great.
Welcome to the White House Pod with David A.R. White.
Oh, welcome to the White House Pod, the podcast featuring David A.R. White, star of the silver screen and television. His guest for this episode of the White House is world-renowned screenwriter, actor, and stand-up comedian Tommy Blaze. Tommy Blaze has been featured all over the world, doing and achieving the greatest things. He has agreed to offer his name, his likeness, and his thoughts to the White House Pod with David A.R. White. And we're just waiting on Tommy Blaze to show up. Oh, wait, of course not. Tommy Blaze is actually here because Tommy Blaze is on time. David A.R. White.
Hello.
Is just now joining us.
Oh, hey, Tommy, how are you?
Take it away.
Did I mention that you were going to be hosting the White House Pod? I might have forgotten to mention that.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would have wore a better shirt. This is hey, you know what this is?
I don't know what that is.
This is my Viva Las Vegas shirt.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's got palm trees and whatnot. But whenever I go to Las Vegas, I wear this. Can you see that they're playing blackjack here?
You got a flamingo, right? That's a flamingo, I see.
Yeah, that's a flamingo.
I like it. Palm trees.
A pair of aces here.
Ooh.
David, what should I do? With these?
You should hit those.
Okay.
Tap those.
Well, thanks, David. Join us each week as David A.R. White gives gambling tips.
On the White House Pod. Okay, Tommy, I have a question here because Dylan is sitting here, right? Dylan's right here. Where's Dylan? Okay, your camera is working. Good. I just see this camera and it's not pointed towards you, but this one is, so that's good. So Dylan, hello, Dylan. How you doing?
What's going on, David?
Dylan, you're sitting in Roger's spot today. You feeling good about that?
You know, it wasn't quite as warm when I sat down in it.
Did Tommy welcome you in? Did Tommy welcome you in, or did he just act like you weren't here?
I really felt neglected.
Wow, Tommy. I mean, haven't you ever hosted a show for crying out loud?
No.
That's not true. You had one on Fox for crying out loud. What was your show called, by the way? Your sketch comedy show that you
I'm
hosted.
trying to balance my checkbook on Quicken when all of a sudden you were up here on the screen and I just went with it.
Oh, gosh. Well, hey, guys, I'd like to welcome everybody. I don't know if Tommy welcomed you correctly or not to the White House Pod. Dare to dream, right? We talk about dreamers here. Hence, Tommy Blaze. Dylan. Is your mic on? I don't even know. Can you hear Dylan? Dylan, speak.
Hello.
I
don't know.
It seems like we're not letting you. How about now? Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Tommy, can we hear you?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we're working through a lot of issues. Well, listen, if you're joining us today on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Alexa, other podcasts, I just want to say thank you on behalf of Tommy Blaze and that amazing shirt he's wearing. And Dylan wants to say, if you're not looking at these amazing gentlemen, you should, because you're going to want to go to the David A.R. White YouTube channel and subscribe. Thank you, Dylan. I don't know why Roger never does that. He never says subscribe. Meanwhile, Tommy didn't do it either, but we're hopefully people will.
Tommy doesn't know what YouTube is.
All right, Tommy Blaze, back by popular demand. Tommy, the outpour of people talking about your episode was so much that everybody wanted to hear more stories from Tommy Blaze, and so we have the pleasure of having you back on, and we just want to say thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me back on. A lot has happened in my life since I saw you last.
Oh yeah, what has happened there? By the way, yeah, it looks like you're like alone in the house.
Well, that's exactly right. About let's see, not too long ago, My youngest daughter left the home to go to college.
Okay.
And a couple of weeks after that, my eldest daughter left my house to move in to her house. She's now a homeowner. All that to say is, for the first time in a quarter of a century, I am alone, all by myself in this house, and it's been an interesting experience.
All I
David.
can hear is it. Does everybody hear this song? All by myself. Just want to be
One less egg to fry. Have you ever been alone, David?
I kind of have been alone, but kind of not been alone, because my kids are still, they're still in the age that they need their dad to buy them things and and cook for them, and so they still come to my house, periodically, halftime. But I know how that feels though. So after 25 years. I called you the other day and you were shopping, but you seemed like you were just mindlessly going around the grocery store with not knowing what you were supposed to buy.
Yeah, I really don't know what to buy. Ask me what I had for dinner last night.
What did you have for dinner last night?
Donuts. I had donuts because there's a reason why.
Why?
Go to the grocery store. They sit there right as you walk in. There was a buy one get one. And I got two, and that's all there is in the house, so that's what I ate. And you know what? It's hard to even get up in the morning because there's nobody to get up for. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like I think I got up at the crack of noon today, and I made it out to the mailbox, and that about did me in. So I made it back. After I called the authorities, I had some more donuts. And honestly, David, if it wasn't for this podcast, I would have gone back to bed. It's not that I'm depressed. I wouldn't say that. What I'm saying is, I don't know what to do with myself.
Well, I mean, okay, so people have jobs, though. What about people with jobs? Because, they not everybody is a writer. Apparently, and and it's a lot harder to be a writer right now because you're not welcome here, you artificial people.
Right, because your intelligence
real.
Is fake.
It's like those fake Social Security cards that one gets when they're whatever. Okay, that's diving into a whole thing that we're not really about. All right, so yeah, it's a little tricky. So how long have you been by yourself?
20 minutes. No. Actually, the kids have left. I've been on my own now. For a little over a week, and it's testing me, David. It's testing me.
Right.
Today, I got up, and that's about it. I did comb my hair because we were having this podcast.
Well, you look good.
That people can actually see me. I was unclear about that.
You actually look pretty put together, Tommy.
Well, you remember the last time I was only dressed from the waist up because, well, we don't have to.
No, actually, last time you were dressed from the waist down.
Well,
if you haven't seen that episode, Tommy Blaze, check it out, because he also talks about how, for whatever reason, it was between him and Matt LeBlanc for Friends.
I did not know it was video.
But he didn't put clothes on, and so that did something.
A week, but I got to tell you, I'm being tested.
Yeah.
You get up, did go to the grocery store. That's when I spoke to you. And I'm telling you, I did a 360-degree lap around the grocery store, and absolutely nothing looked good to me.
Landed in your cart?
Done that?
Well, I don't even like to shop. Quite frankly, I or go to grocery stores any longer. I order everything online, and most of the time it's just DoorDash that just delivers food to me because I don't like to cook. So I don't even have those skills, really. I can kind of cook breakfast and a steak dinner, but nothing in between. and certainly not when I don't have my kids there, you know, and I'm in my house alone. Then I just, you know, but I kind of like, for me, I like I can actually order whatever I want then, and I don't have to, like, you know, when I have the kids there, it's like this thing, everybody wants something different. And so, you know, DoorDash only lets you order from 2 different places instead of 3 or 4. They cut you off like after 2. You know.
So you can only
2
have
different
one
restaurants
over at a time.
Yeah, then I got to order again, you know, like 10 minutes later, and hope the other one doesn't get canceled. Anyway, it's a whole thing. But
I don't use DoorDash. Doesn't come here anymore. Did I ever tell you that story?
No, why?
All right. So the first.
Where do you live though? You live out in somewhere.
I live in the suburbs of Raleigh,
North Carolina.
Yeah.
I've known. You've been there forever, and I couldn't. It is Raleigh. You live outside of Raleigh, right?
Just outside of Raleigh.
Yeah, it took me forever. It wasn't until we were actually shooting in South Carolina that I learned that that you actually live in North Carolina. But you've been there for like 10, 12, 15 years, right?
Yes.
And, and I probably talked to you every day for probably 10 years of those out of that 15.
Yeah.
But I still didn't. I just know you live somewhere else. Okay, so what happened somewhere else, wherever you live?
I live in Van Nuys.
I mean, you could live in Van Nuys. For all I know, you're around the corner from me. We're in Burbank right now.
Here's what happened. So I was kind of lonely, and I didn't have anything. I hadn't gone to the grocery store yet and got the 2-for-1 on the donuts, right? So the pantry was bare because I did a grown-up thing. When the kids left, I cleaned out the refrigerator. I cleaned out the pantry. And I forgot to leave myself something to eat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I called, what do you call it? The DoorDash.
DoorDash. Yeah. Or like there's all, Dylan, what are the other ones called? Uber Eats?
Uber Eats.
Yep.
What's another one? There's another one.
I don't know. I can't think of it.
Man. Ironically, the only time I did Uber Eats, I was in South Africa for 3 months, you know, and I would order food to my hotel, and it was Uber Eats, the one that would deliver it, ironically. The food didn't taste the same, but
I ordered DoorDash.
Was a different country.
Now, you have to understand, I've not eaten alone, like I said, for about 25 years. I'm just not used to it. You understand?
Yeah. You had full custody of your kids, too, though. This is why. Yeah.
I had both of my children.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm just not
used to This is a shout-out to Ruby and Delaney. We miss you.
Alone.
Yeah.
So when the
Maybe
DoorDash
you should get a dog.
Came to the door, I invited him in. I said, "Do you want to eat this cheeseburger with me?" And he needed some convincing. Anyway, it got physical. My point is, they won't come to my house anymore, so I can't use. I can't use.
All right, so I'm gonna switch topics now because that's just disturbing and weird. So you're the writer of, this is probably the wrong time to segue, but you are the writer of such great faith-based movies as God's Not Dead 3, A Light in Darkness, God's Not Dead, We the People, and God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. Like 3 of the 5 movies in one of the biggest faith franchises in the world.
Right.
And somehow you wrote those.
Right.
That's a testimony to.
And I'm the same guy
who
that has been
invited the DoorDash guy in, and
DoorDash.
well, we won't.
So you go figure.
I mean, it's interesting because when you think about actually how the Bible was written, let's just think about this, right? It was written by human beings, right? And God spoke through those human beings of what he wanted them to write down, basically. That's in a nutshell. That's from a very, a guy from Kansas who has a podcast explanation. It's kind of the same thing with you. Because I mean, you don't have like a book of the Bible written by you, but you're doing.
I have.
Are you saying that Tommy's a New Age prophet?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
I really wish you wouldn't.
Let's not even go that way. But that's interesting when you think about that, right? Like, how in the world does great biblical content come out of you? like, do you time out? He's like, time out. I think we should cut here. We should definitely edit this because this is you're Dave White. You're on the border of,
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, I don't know about great biblical content. I try to I write the best movies that I can. Now, there are sometimes, definitely, I feel like.
But here's the interesting thing: is that God chose a guy who lives alone, who is blackballed by DoorDash, but also was a stand-up comedian, right? On the road for headlining for everything. Somehow wrote on Raw with Eddie Murphy in pieces. And you're the guy that's writing some of the biggest faith-based movies of our time right now. Some people would consider that a little bit odd because they would say, wait, why wouldn't you take the great theologian guy who, John MacArthur, for example, or somebody like that who, is an unbelievable pastor who's written 30-some 100 books, bestsellers, who has a great knowledge and wisdom and the depth and the perception of, what's in the Bible and then how to bring them to light. And somehow he chose you.
Well, I mean, actually,
explain that to me.
It's interesting because
everyone watching this. I mean, does somebody else must find this fascinating, right?
And a little odd.
And I mean, it's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I think it was more that you chose me, and I sit on their shoulders. I stand on the shoulders of those people. See, I have to read all of their books. I have to study the Bible. I have to pray about what I'm going to write in order for it to come out. Because if I just relied on my own resources, it wouldn't work at all. And I started actually looking for guidance in my stand-up. The last 10 years of my stand-up career, I talked mainly about biblical concepts, specifically biblical concepts between men and women, which, if you remember, is why you asked me to write on the first movie, Marriage Retreat, because it was really about men and women and biblical role. If you remember. And
we've had Ann Zielinski on the podcast, and that was her first movie she produced on, and she's in the movie as well. We were talking about that, actually. I remember that. And how did you get involved? Obviously, we talked a little bit on the last time that you were on our run-on experience, the first time we did, a stand-up show where, whatever, all three things came in. It's very cool run-on. It's on PureFlix. But like when you joined Marriage Retreat, had you written a faith-based movie before other than Run On? Run On wasn't a movie, though.
Well, kind of. Not really. Back in 1986, Eddie Murphy hired me to write a movie, as a matter of fact.
Does everybody know who Eddie Murphy is? Dylan, do you think people know who Eddie Murphy is? Maybe we could show a picture of Eddie Murphy on the off chance that nobody doesn't know who Eddie Murphy is. Okay. Whoa!
Eddie Murphy hired me to write this movie.
What does that say?
It says,
for those listeners who aren't subscribed on this YouTube page at David A.R. White on YouTube, but you can see this. It's pretty cool.
It's a framed newspaper article and a copy, an actual check that I never deposited. No, it's just a copy. It basically says local comedian Tommy Blaze's friendship with Eddie Murphy has paid off in big dividends. And what it is he hired me to write a movie about a guy who had gone to hell, and he wanted to have the hero escape. And at the time, I was like, sure. But then as I started reading into it more, I realized that hell, nobody escapes hell. Nobody gets
broken out of hell
there pretty easily, but you can't ever get out. Anyway, I had to do a lot of research. Biblical research. So I wouldn't say it was a faith-based movie, but it was the first time I ever wrote anything with the Bible by my side. So,
wow,
you could argue that started in 80.
Were you reading the Bible back then? Like, was it a thing, or was it like a hard reach to get the Bible?
It's interesting. I only picked it up to research.
Do research. Wow.
And
did it impact you from the moment you read it? Like,
yes, and that's kind of the point. Everybody comes to the Lord or comes to the Word in different ways.
Yeah.
This was my way. This is the journey, and I would fight it, you know, and I would fall back and come back and fall back, gone prodigal so many times until we did. And my story is in the show Run On that we did, and at that point, I was a lot more stable in my what we call our walk. You know, I don't want to get all use too much Christianese here, but my
not a
journey,
jog, not a run, but a walk.
it was a walk. Yeah, and as I said, that was about. Gosh, I want to think that was 2007, 2008. I can't remember. But anyway, that's about when we met. So I feel like I had to do everything else to get myself ready for David A.R. White to come in and just uproot everything, which is exactly what happened.
So 2000. So you write on Marriage Retreat. So the first time you write on Marriage Retreat, were you happy to write on Marriage Retreat because?
Yes, I was thrilled.
I mean, that you're like,
okay,
oh my
so-
goodness, I dig. This is you're writing a relationship between man and woman, right, or multiple men and women, because it was not one of those movies, but it was like a marriage movie with different relationships.
It was multilinear. As I
Right.
remember, there were at least three couples, maybe four, three couples that go to a retreat in order to work
On
to
their marriage.
employ biblical principles and work on their marriage.
Yeah.
It starred Jeff Fahey
Yep, a whole lot of people.
and Victoria
Jackson.
Jackson.
So Tommy was in the movie as an actor. I was in the movie. Lots of people were in the movie. So how I remember that. I mean, yeah, my daughter at the time, Ocean, was, I think, like a baby. I feel like she was like 1. It was like she was pretty brand new. Maybe not even 1. Anyway, so that was 10. Well, no, she's 13. I guess that was 12 years ago. Wow. 12
I
years?
know.
12, probably 12 and a half years ago. So, okay, so where do you go from there? What was the next one after that?
Well, it was interesting. I probably should remember what the next one was, but I was still a stand-up comedian. So after shooting the movie with you, I went back onto the road,
Yeah.
telling jokes and that kind of stuff, and I did this. And I think you reached out to me again. I believe our next film, was it called? I think it was called Redeemed. It was at the time.
I don't think that's right.
Married people were getting on the internet and getting too comfy cozy with people that they met on the internet. I think it was called Redeemed. Is that what it was, David?
I don't think it's right. I think you're thinking of immediate. Yes, I understand what you're saying about Redeemed, but you're skipping ahead here. I think it was Me Again. Wasn't Me Again the next movie?
Oh, yeah.
I just remember Me Again was 2012 is when it came out. So we probably shot it in 2011,
Right.
which I think was right around the time, if I'm doing my math correctly, of my daughter's. It's funny how our kids, that's the easiest way you can remember when a movie was, because you can just, how old they are now, and then you can just deduct the years. Because you remember when they were, and I know on Me Again, Ocean was a baby and she was crying in her crib. So she had to be a year old or a little less than a year old on that one. And Ethan was like 6, who's now 17.
Yes, because we put Ethan in it.
Yeah,
So you're
playing
right.
the
The next
me-
movie I worked on with you guys was
Me
a
Again.
kind of a fantasy comedy.
I call it a
called-
body swapping movie.
Yeah,
Me
kind
Again.
of. Yeah. What had happened was the lead character is miserable with where he is in life, and he basically
Kind of like right
prays-
now, where is he living alone? No, he's not living alone though.
No, I don't think he is.
No, he's not. He has a wife and
whole
family.
family.
Yeah.
But I guess he's just.
I love that. I just remember the line. I love this. I say something about why I don't want to be me anymore, right? And you say, I love your line. Your line is something about No, no one else wants to be you.
Oh, yeah.
What is the line?
I can't remember now, but you're right. It's like
Why I don't want to
you
be.
might as well be you because nobody else wants the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. Yeah. What was interesting about that movie, it was about people who are unsatisfied with where they are in their lives because they're living what they think is the life they want to live versus the life that God wants them to live. And this main character was just miserable because he wasn't where he thought he should be. And God said, "You're exactly where I want you to be." But he had to learn that lesson. And we did it. I think you have a prayer and you said, I want to be somebody, just anybody but me. And throughout the whole movie, you get to walk in the shoes of a half a dozen different characters. As I remember, you are.
Well, yeah. I mean, I call it a body swap movie because I'm jumping in and out of people's. I mean, I'm jumping into them. I'm becoming them, basically.
Right. Della Reese.
Yeah. Is a grandma.
She was a grandma. You were a baby, an infant.
Uh-huh.
You were a teenage boy.
Yeah.
You were your wife. And you were a goldfish, as I remember, for very brief. And in each experience taught you something and brought you back closer and closer to the you that God wanted you to be. And at the end of the movie, very much like It's a Wonderful Life, you prayed for the opposite, where you said, "I just want to be me again." And that was that. It's one of my favorite movies that I've done for you guys. I think it's adorable.
It is adorable. It's a lot like It's a Wonderful Life. And the funny thing is, I mean, because everybody's in the movie, I got to direct the movie. I directed it with Jeff Peterson, one of my closest friends. I mean, that's what people always say, what do you love most about these movies? And I always come back to, I get to work with my friends. I get to work with really great people on an ongoing thing. And so, Anna produced that movie. You're in that movie as my best friend in the movie. My son is playing me. My daughter is, I jump into a baby's world. She's in the movie. Andrea was in the movie. Like, so many wonderful people were in that film. The funny thing about that film, though, that I remember most is I don't remember why I didn't catch this, but I also I become a model.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And the irony is that why, like, I didn't quite grasp the concept that, oh, hey, I should be, I'll have to be dressing like a model, like putting, pantyhose on, high heels, a dress, makeup, because it's hard to be a woman.
Yes. Easier for some than others, from what I
Apparently, some people are signing up for it. I don't know why, but
I don't know. They're first in line.
They should do Me Again first. They should do a movie like Me Again and then go, did I really want to do that?
Yeah, I remember that very well. I think there was one time, well, the first thing the joke was when you first appear, the first thing you say is that you're hungry, that you're starving. You remember that? Because we were trying to say that these models never eat, And the whole point of that was, and I remember this very well, that for a lot of people, not just women, men too, that the mirror lies to them. And if you remember that this character had all these Post-it notes on the mirror, telling her, reminding her of she was very much less than. She wasn't enough. She wasn't pretty enough. She wasn't thin enough. And it was reminding her to continue to diet and this and that. And she kept looking into the mirror, and it kept lying to her. And her growth arc is when she rips all of them down, and she finally gets to see her real face in the mirror, and not all these negative images that she had surrounded herself with. That she broke through all of that, and that's why I made you a high fashion model. It wasn't just to see you in high heels. Although that was enjoyable. And do you remember the first time I think you made it out of wardrobe? I think you made it about 3 steps and you almost broke your ankle.
I think before I fell, yeah. I mean, high heels, walking in high heels, for all you guys out there, is I don't. It's very difficult and tricky. Yeah.
You have to work up to that.
You have to work up to it. I know. Yeah, I guess. When did your daughters start wearing high heels, Tommy? How young were they?
You know what?
You remember?
My youngest, I don't think she's ever worn high heels.
I mean, you have tall kids, though. They're pretty tall, aren't they?
Yeah, she's 5'8", maybe.
That's tall.
My eldest, I think, has worn a couple, but honestly, they were never really into going out to clubbing and all that. And my daughter is also a writer. She's a copywriter, so she works from home. So she doesn't even have to wear any of that for work.
She's not putting the high heels on just to walk around into the...
Yeah, nobody's doing that. Like, I'm going to go walk the dog. Give me my pumps. Nobody's doing that.
Guess that's a thing of the past. Because my daughters have started already. They clunk around, they like the idea of every now and then Ocean, who's now 13, does this, and it's...
I cannot believe Ocean is 13 years old.
I know, it's very... it's like, oh, no. But... yeah, it's...
You remember when
it's cute when they're 10 doing it because they're clunking around. It's like, they look like we look when I put high heels on.
Do you remember who's the youngest? Ocean?
Everson.
No.
Evie.
Everson.
Yeah.
How old is Evie?
10.
Do you remember when you were in the hospital for
Which
the
time?
birth of Evie Everson? And you called me, and I didn't know where you were. And I forgot exactly now why you called me. You were, you had another child coming. I think you were a little worried. You were looking down the line at stuff, and you were just kind of touching base with all this. But I didn't know that you were actually there in the hospital. Do you remember this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like hanging out in the hospital, I don't know if you've done it or not, but if you haven't, it's not really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, nurses coming in to prod you or, whoever you're with all the time. You got all these buzzing noises. It's freezing. It's like not fun smells. It's all. So you do anything you can, I think, to escape, to walk outside. And when you're not the person who's laying in the bed. And so, and the work, the show must go on, right? I mean, we
Well, that's what it was.
we made a lot of movies. PureFlix started in 2005, and by the time, even before God's Not Dead came out in 2014, I think we had done 30 movies, 25. I mean, a lot. So it's like you're doing 2, 3, 4 a year. Yeah. So what did we do after? Do you remember what we did after Me Again?
Maybe, was it that one movie?
Well, let's just talk about Redeemed, since you're talking about Redeemed.
Yeah. It was about people who were having affairs, but not physical affairs, online affairs. I think that was it.
That was like a big thing. Like I remember, like years ago, it seemed like a trending thing that people were having these affairs through Facebook or
Facebook.
Yeah. But is that a thing? I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's still a thing. It's not like that goes out. But I mean, like, I haven't heard about it. I haven't heard people talking about it as much.
Right.
Maybe because they were discovering it. It might have been because they were discovering it because Facebook was newer, and it was like all of a sudden, these marriages were breaking up because of these type of relationships that were going on, and then people started writing books, and pastors were giving sermons on it, and maybe that was the thing. So we did a movie on it. We did a movie called Redeemed. Yeah,
we sure did. And we talked about how incredibly destructive it is to a marriage.
Yeah.
And then after that, gosh.
That was a movie, though. Redeemed was an interesting one. It starred Ted McGinley, and it was I was in it. I directed it, actually.
That's right. I forgot that you were in it. That's right.
Yeah, I was in it, and
you directed. That's now I'm remembering.
Yeah, ironically, that was that wasn't a fun role to play, and nor did I ever want to live that. But
Yeah, that was an interesting departure from the lightness and the frivolity of Me Again. We just went completely
Yeah,
different
it was
way.
just like it was a heavy movie, and half of it takes place. The company that we were working with was in Brazil, so we shot in Brazil,
Hey, that's right.
and it was 2000. I feel like 2012, maybe 11, something like that. Well, wait.
I think it was before God's Not Dead 1. No,
Yeah, no, it was before God's Not Dead because it was a tough time in my life. I was in Brazil shooting the reshoots of that, and then my mom was suffering from liver cancer at the time, and so went into hospice while I was gone. And by the time I got back, I didn't get the time with my mom that I would have loved.
A lot of people don't realize that when you travel for a living, everybody says, oh, it must be so great to see all these new and exciting and exotic places. And it is. But sometimes in order to do that, you have to leave home, and things are still happening at home.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. It's really tough.
It is. It was, it was one of those things that was obviously that was a huge thing that I wish that I was not gone during that. Being able to talk to my mom for the last time, so I missed it. It's that movie was a tough movie. It is on PureFlix, I know that, if you haven't seen it, Redeemed, but it also, there's a lot of hope to it. It's a really like thought-provoking movie that's a little bit outside of the realm of what Me Again was, where it was more light, fun, inspirational. And Marriage Retreat was, I had some heavy stuff too, but it was also, it ends inspirational, I think. And those. It's interesting. Do you remember what we did after Redeemed?
I
mean, God's Not Dead came around in 2012. We know that. We started shooting 2012. God's Not Dead.
Okay, so I can't remember.
And you were in that movie.
Yes, I was. I was in the first two movies.
Mm-hmm. Ironically, because you didn't write those, though.
No. As a matter of fact, this is how it goes. My daughter, Delaney, who would go on to act in quite a few PureFlix movies for you guys, Dancer and the Dame, with Billy Gardell, and some of your television shows.
That was 2015, I know.
Dancer and the Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Her first one is she got a role opposite you in God's Not Dead 1. She played a cheerleader.
Yeah, I remember that.
Who had a lot of young girl problems. And in this scene, she lays them all out on you.
Did you write that scene?
No, I did not. I did not.
Who? Chuck and Carrie wrote that?
I think so.
They were the writers, so.
I believe we shot that in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yep, we did.
And I went there to escort and chaperone my daughter Delaney.
That's the wrong word. I think you should lose that word.
I went there to chaperone my daughter Delaney.
That's better.
She was too young. She was very young. I don't even think she had flown by herself at this point.
Can you just delete words, by the way, out of the alphabet? Is that a thing? Like people go, you know what? Escort is the wrong word. We're no longer using that. Like that's it's turned not great. Apparently it got more popular in the other sense of the word. So we're just going to not use that word any longer. Do people do that?
I accompany.
I know, but I mean, are there other words that we just lose because we're like, yeah, I don't feel like saying cool.
I'm kind of glad we lost bamboozled, groovy.
Groovy, yeah, that
gone.
one.
I kind of like that. Those words.
Groovy hasn't come back. It just left.
Yeah.
Bamboozled. I don't even know what century that was popular in.
Hogwash. That's been retired.
I mean, only a writer would know this. See, there's other skills, by the way. If Tommy obviously does, we don't get to make movies
true.
anymore.
When the last time I was in Virginia, I went to the Department of Words. It's in Roanoke, and I toured the DOW, and I got a chance to see all of the retired words.
This is actually a thing.
Fascinating.
Wait, this is a thing? Where is this place at?
Yeah, that's where the words go when
To the Museum of Words?
Like Razzmatazz was there. Right next to Bamboo.
I can't tell whether you're serious or not. Are you saying, is there an actual Museum of Words?
Words! It's DOW.
I actually bought it, though. Dylan, did you buy that?
I did.
I mean, I literally thought there was a Museum of Words. Where was it again?
Roanoke, Virginia. People are Googling. I want to go there.
I know. Actually, people are on planes right now. They're like, I'd like to go to Red Rugen. What?
Roanoke.
Red Road. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so getting back to, because we're about out of time again.
We only made it to like
God's Not
movie
Dead.
number 4.
Well, we're at God's Not Dead, right?
God's
I
Not
feel
Dead.
like-
So I show up on the set.
Yeah.
And there's a director, Harold Kronk, and the 2 writers were there. And Harold kind of knew me, and he said, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Well, I'm here to, chaperone my daughter Delaney." And he said, "Well, since you're standing here, you might as well do something." And me and Carrie and Chuck, who were the writers on God's Not Dead 1, we quickly wrote this patter. There was going to be a guy who was going to come and deliver a rental car to your character and the character of Jude.
Yeah.
And we just kind of ad-libbed, and we went nuts with it. And it was fun, And then the second one, I reprised.
Wait. So you're not even written in the script for God's Not Dead 1?
Not really, no. I went and looked at it. And
Like, who was the driver? Did we?
I think he was an extra. I think he was somebody who was just going to drop a car off to you guys.
You know what? I didn't even know that, though. I mean, I just learned when I got dropped off for God's Not Dead 1 the very first time. When I flew in to Louisiana, it was in late October, November, and it was cold. And my first scene was with Kevin Sorbo in the rain when he's dying. Wow. And they're pouring rain, and the rain was supposed to be heated. I know Kevin had a thing about that. He wanted warm rain, which I understand now.
Do you remember the rain in Marriage Retreat and how I was crying and screaming about how cold it was?
Yeah, because we were on top of a mountain and getting freezing cold, just rain dumped on us at all times. Brutal.
And I vowed that I would never write those words in a screenplay ever again. And then it rained.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Never have again.
Yeah, I do remember Tommy kind of was the baby. You were the baby running to, like, trying to... Well, because it was the middle of the night, and it was, like, absolutely freezing up there anyway, and then you dump water on us and while we're exhausted at 4 in the morning.
But that water came from a nearby lake. Yeah. They drained the lake, put it in the top. It was December, if you'll remember, in a mountain. Yeah. So that water came out.
It wasn't just like... Yeah, it was like... It was
sleep, is what it was. It was ice cubes.
Ironically, the funny thing is when I get off the plane, right, and I go directly. I only have 2 minutes. We're closing this thing out. I get people flashing all the time. So saying not flat. Like, see, and that's probably another word we should retire is flashing.
Probably, rub that.
Yeah. Anyway. I remember the first thing about God's Not Dead going, we performed that thing, and Kevin was like, Kevin Sorbo was like, oh my gosh, why is this rain so cold? Now it makes complete sense of why it didn't bother me as much, is because I had already lived through Marriage Retreat where the rain was sleet.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I don't even understand this because this is warm rain at 32 degrees. I mean, it's not sleet.
My lips aren't blue. I don't know why you're crying.
I'm still breathing here.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tommy Blaze, as always, thank you for coming on the podcast. You are a breath of fresh air. You were like frozen. What? You just stopped talking. Like, I guess it's okay.
I was having flashbacks to Marriage Retreat and the sleep.
Being dumped on you.
Oh, don't you remember?
Oh gosh, I do remember. Yeah, that was a memory that I had blocked out. That's like those words that we should have left. All right, guys, tune in. Please tell your friends about the White House Pod. Dare to Dream on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Alexa, and all other podcast platforms. Can you say that like 32 times in a row? Podcast platforms. Just join us. And also the YouTube. Please subscribe and watch people like Tommy Blaze, Dylan. Look at these people. They're so good looking. good looking. I can't even speak. All right, I feel like cold rain's coming down and I can't speak. But
you need to visit the Museum of Words.
I know, and I do need I think I've written down like 32 of them that we have blocked out from this episode. God bless you guys. Keep dreaming. Make it a great day. Talk to you next time.